days prior to that, I think I had mild spotting and then couple of contractions
Mm.
I experienced, but they were not periodic, so I knew it was not that contraction. But yeah, like when it comes, you kind of know that this is it.
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic, natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high. We are going to listen to Supriya's birth story, who birthed at Aastrika Midwifery Center, Bangalore. She's a new mom, an aspiring writer, and a certified Hatha Yoga coach. She works with Procter& Gamble as Director, Environmental Sustainability for Asia, Middle East, and African markets. What's beautiful is how she navigated her labor and went to the midwifery center. She took childbirth classes with Neha Mishra, who's a doula and childbirth educator from Bangalore. But before we go ahead, I would like to thank Christina. She's a doula from Goa for making a donation and buy me a coffee to support the production of the podcast. If you are also somebody who enjoys the podcast and really look forward to the new stories that we bring up, please go ahead and support the podcast either by giving a rating, a review on different channels, or by supporting the production cost by making a donation and buy me a coffee. Thank you so much. Now let's begin. Supriya, tell us about the time when. Okay, first of all, tell us about yourself.
I'm Supriya. I'm a mother to a 6.5-month-old baby, daughter Samara. That's my newest identity. Apart from that, I was born and brought up in Maharashtra, but currently I'm based in Bangalore. And I work with a company called Procter& Gamble. I lead environmental sustainability initiatives across Asia, Middle East, and Africa.
Yeah. And how was your birth experience if you are to define it in, say, two lines?
Uh, the most magical day of my life, and it was beautiful.
Wow. Okay. So take us to the time when you were expecting, and then what were your thoughts? What did you think of um, when when the news came and you were like, okay, okay, new journey. So what were your thoughts then?
uh, so actually, Kunal and I, Kunal is my husband, both of us were on a sabbatical. Um, So throughout the pandemic, we actually traveled quite a bit. We did two months vacations. We were in Goa, we were in Oroville, we were in the US, and we had taken a 2 weeks trip to Costa Rica. And we had sort of decided that by the end of the sabbatical, like we should make up our mind. Do we want to
Mm.
have a biological child or not? Like we were going through those conversations, and somewhere we decided that yes, I think this it's a separate podcast just to how I decided and how it came to me,
Yeah.
because it was also a very spiritual experience that I went through during a
Wow.
retreat. And as soon as I came out, I'm like, hey, you know what, I'm ready. So and as soon as we decided, I think the next week I had a strong hunch that I'm already pregnant. And when I had a strong hunch, I was on a beach called Samara. Um, so which is how Samara gets her name. So
Mm.
and when we found out, I think both of us were like over the moon. Uh, it just felt like we were ready for it, and it just happened. So we were super excited, and then the next moment we were trying to find a house because we were nomads for 2 years during the pandemic, and we
Mm.
literally had been sort of traveling for 2 years, and
Yeah.
and the first project was okay, let's ground ourselves somewhere, and we came to Bangalore in my first
Yeah.
trimester,
Yeah.
and we were like, okay, this is where we wanted to be rooted for some time.
Oh, lovely. So, how did you then decide to join birth classes and maybe find a place to? When did you begin thinking on where to birth and how? What kind of a journey do you want? And what were your thoughts before you kind of
found Aastrika. Aastrika is where you finally, yeah, decided on. But what were your thoughts before that? Because in India we are scared of birth because of the rates of births that do not go naturally. However that is, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I knew nothing about pregnancy, birth, the hospitals, till I actually found out that I was pregnant, right? So as soon as I landed back, in Bangalore, the same day I went to the first popular hospital chain that I saw somewhere. I'm like, hey, this looks like the most popular chain, so let me just go. And I was like overwhelmed by, just the sheer number of people, and the doctor was seeing like, I don't know how many patients a day, and I was very, very overwhelmed. And that I was told was the best and the biggest kind of hospital chain for expecting mothers. Um, After that, like again, I didn't know many people in Bangalore. I didn't have friends who had gone through this in the
Hmm.
city. So I did my own research and I went to like literally the top three hospitals in Bangalore. And every time I walked out like disappointed or confused, and what just happened? Did she understand my question? And there were times when Kunal was actually not even allowed to be there with me during the scans. So
Oh.
I I literally walked out and I'm like, I'm never coming back because we are in this
Hmm.
together. And obviously they cited some regulatory reasons, but I still felt it was not fair on him. Like he would want to see the baby as much as I wanted to, right? So
Exactly. Yeah, and
I
that's
just,
allowed. There is no legality to it, to be honest. And did you
yeah,
have any of those stories from your friends where you knew the husbands had seen the scans, the husband had seen the baby? Did you kind of had those stories at the back of your mind that yeah, husbands are there?
not not really actually. It was just intuitive to me that I don't. I can't. I couldn't wrap my head around this. I'm like, why cannot he be there? Like, I understand there are the certain sort of regulations in place, but that does not inhibit a dad, who's an equal partner in this journey, to be there
Yes.
with me. So this was
Yes.
one of the biggest and the most popular hospital
Yeah.
in the city, and I was like, I'm not coming back here again because if this is how it's going to be, like, I don't see myself sort of birthing here. And yeah, Astrika sort of happened because I started reading about water birth because there are two people I follow on Instagram for different reasons who ended up having a water birth. So it was somewhere there in my subconscious. And
Yeah.
so, and around that time, I think I started seeing Astrika on Instagram. And I found out that they too have a facility and I didn't really know much about it. I didn't get oriented well, but uh, I knew someone who had visited that center, hadn't birthed there, but she told me like great things about it. So I had considered Astrika too, but it was really far from home. And one of the biggest myth we have is right, like find something nearby.
Yes. Yes.
So
That's a
I
myth.
just, yeah, so I ruled it out because I'm like, hey, it's like an hour and a half, and with Bangalore traffic, it could be like 2 hours, 3 hours. You never know. So I ruled it out, and my doula, okay, I'll tell you how I found her. So I was in my first trimester completely clueless. I was trying to find birth classes and pregnancy classes and yoga classes and everything around my house. So I literally found someone like at 500 meters, and it happened to be Neha who runs Namaz
Wow.
classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my second trimester, we had our first meeting, and which is when she really nudged me to sort of explore other options. It was if I was not satisfied with the current option. So till my second trimester, what I had a beautiful arrangement. Like I had found a really nice doctor, but I had to visit her private clinic because
Hmm.
the big hospitals really overwhelmed me, and I
Hmm.
found my comfort in a small private clinic for some reason. So I come from a very small town, and I think that's also why like I'm just sort of used to like smaller settings and smaller places and more
Yeah.
cozy settings. So I met
And
this
that's a good
really nice doctor.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
but
good
she didn't
thing.
have a birthing facility, so she would have
Oh.
sort of had we would have birth anywhere at one of these three hospitals that I'm talking about. And while she was a lovely OB-GYN, but I was not completely on board with the facility. When I went to Africa, I think it took me about a couple of months to make up my mind about Aastrika also because I was also trying to understand and speak to the doctor. Uh, and when I spoke to Janvi a couple of times, who's the founder of
Yeah, Janvi
Aastrika,
Nilekani. Yeah.
yeah, so I remember that conversation where it just sounded like very reassuring because the way she was talking, it just sounded like, okay, like this sounds like something that
Yeah.
I resonate with. Uh,
Exactly. Her
and I was like,
story is
yeah,
precisely like yours. She was looking for all the hospitals across Bangalore. I think
yeah,
she was in Bangalore only. Yeah, someone
yeah,
out south.
yeah,
And she was looking for all the hospitals. She found none. She was like she decided to go to Mumbai. She decided to go back to US. She was like, okay,
yeah,
wherever I can birth anywhere. But she just did not find anyone. And then
yeah,
she zeroed in on Sanctum. And
yeah.
then she was like, Astrika, it is. She was there
Yeah,
on
so
the
we
path.
both share also a public policy background where we both like are into
Oh,
like
wow.
the whole research and like nerding it out. So I think like when he was
Hmm.
talking about a lot of evidence-based stuff, I'm like, okay, this is very high in my priority list. Like there has to be a very empathetic team. Empathy was like one of the top priorities, and there has to be a more evidence-based approach to things. And
Yes.
somewhere where I feel heard, you know, and it
Hmm.
just like Asrika checked all these three, four criteria that I had laid out.
And how did you decide to have a doula? How did you come across the concept of a doula? Because it's fairly new still in India.
Yeah, I had known about doulas. I don't know how since forever, like maybe through movies or I don't know like
Yeah.
how.
Okay. Yeah.
It's somewhere it was there in my head, and I didn't know that in India you can have one because if I would have sort of given birth outside, I would have definitely had one. I didn't know that, and when I discovered Neha, I'm like, oh my God, maybe I was looking for you, and you showed up.
Yes, and
Yes.
close by. That's how things play out.
Yeah, yeah. So I was very comfortable. I knew both Kunal and I are very new to
Hmm.
uh, this whole thing. We haven't really seen birds in our families closely, so it'll be nice to have someone to offer that support.
Hmm.
During that very very vulnerable
Yeah.
time that there
Right.
is, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I met Neha and she was there with me throughout during my labor.
Lovely. So you took birth classes with her,
Yes.
and then yeah, lovely. And how do you define like birth classes? What was how much they impacted your birth?
I think I really, but I'm one of those who believes information is like the key, and you fear what you do not understand. And I felt that having that information helped me just be fearless, really. Uh, and obviously, there's nervousness that's always there, but after those birth classes, I was almost looking forward to that day, like I'm like, yeah, I'm excited and I really can't wait to like see this miracle happen and how our bodies kind of are capable of doing so much and just that day. So I was actually looking forward to it and not really from a place of uh, fear or nervousness, but like,
Hmm.
purely because I understood what's going to happen. I understood it's natural and, how to deal with different scenarios. And I also discussed my birth plan with Neha and also I discussed my birth plan with the team at Aastrika. And I think I felt prepared. Like, I felt like, okay, let's do this. And uh, Lamar's classes had a huge role to play in me getting there where I felt like I'm prepared for this.
Yeah, that's lovely. So, did you before that have any kind of fear ever in the beginning? Because you must have also seen, like all of us, those
Yeah, yeah.
movies where birth is made a scene out of
Yeah,
and
yeah,
sensationalized.
yeah. I could not like when I saw like when I saw these movies or whatever my impression of birth was like it was just like a very bloody affair and like there's it's messy, it's people scream and it's drama full of adrenaline, which I later realized it's not. It's it's definitely not something that we see in the movies. There was fear in the first trimester, if I were to be very honest, because mm I took two long flights and I had just came back. I came back from US and I was asked to be on bed rest. Honestly, I didn't need to be. It just was
Hmm.
like a very precautionary thing. And that just those 10 days of bed rest, like, just filled my
Got
mind
on
with like
your
a lot
head.
of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sure about this journey. Is it going to be like this? But trust me, I think it's post the first trimester. I think like it just became easier, and I felt like the more I read up, so I think there has to be a balance between like not overwhelming yourself with information, but at the same time guarding yourself with the right resources and tools and understanding of it. So
Right.
I think I tried my best to strike that balance somewhere, and it really helped me, like, just go with it and go with the flow, sort of a thing.
Yeah, you mean because the internet also keeps throwing so much at you once. As
Yeah.
soon as you write baby or pregnancy, oh my God, you're in a
Yeah, so
different world.
as soon as Google finds out you're pregnant, like, you'll get all the ads in the world. You'll get a lot of that information, and which is one of the reasons I joined Lama's classes,
Hmm.
because I wanted something more structured in terms of information that's given out to me, more evidence based, and I didn't really have the time to go and like fact check everything that I was reading online also. So I was
Hmm.
like, it's better to, and for both me and my husband, we already both were working with jobs that are already taking up most of our time. So we wanted to
Hmm.
sort of have a source of information that we can rely on, and that's where I think that Lamar's classes also play a very important role.
Yeah, and your partner also took all those classes and
Yeah, yeah.
mm, yeah, lovely. So take us to the time when the first contraction happened. Where were you? How did you feel? I mean, all the excitement that you're talking about. Yes, take us to that time.
Yeah. So it was Christmas Eve. I was watching a movie with my mom. We were doing Home Alone, and like, like every year, so we were just sitting and watching. And after that, I was craving for something very spicy. I remember at around 11:30 at night, and I ordered like a vada pav, and I had it at night, and it was literally, so I live. Uh, there's a church behind my house, um, so the Christmas mass had started, and there were like songs and all. And I was just going to go to bed, and I just had my first wave of contraction. And I was just telling my husband this. I'm like, listen, she's making a very dramatic entry, like, with all the Christmas music that we
Yeah,
can hear, the church.
fiesta. Yeah.
Correct. And we were like, okay, like it's happening. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is not Braxton Hicks. I'm pretty sure this is it. And we were
Hmm.
timing it. And yeah, it started midnight on Christmas Eve, and summer arrived on Christmas.
You had false labor too, so you could differentiate that this is not false labor.
So, a couple of days prior to that, I think I had mild spotting, and then couple of contractions
Hmm.
I experienced, but
Hmm.
they were not periodic. So I knew it was not that contraction. But yeah, like when it comes, you kind of know that this is it, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
so I kind of knew, okay, this is it, things are getting real.
Yeah. And did you have loose motions also at the beginning, or no,
No,
nothing of that sort? And
I was
hmm,
I was slightly giddy, maybe,
hmm,
at night, and I
hmm,
just, my way to deal with that was like I just went for a warm shower at like 3 a.m.
hmm, hmm.
And yeah, but there was no loose motions
Okay.
otherwise.
Okay. And how far along were you from your due date, like estimated due date? Were you
Yeah, it was 38 weeks and 3 days.
okay? Okay. And so you took the shower, and then were you able to sleep after that? After
I
taking the
wasn't able
shower?
to sleep. No, so actually,
Okay.
my mom had slept off, not knowing that my first contraction had come. I didn't tell her. I let her sleep the entire night. I told my husband, but I also made sure that he sleeps. I'm like,
Sleep.
can you
Yeah.
please go to sleep because it could be a
Yeah.
long day tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
And you'll
I
be
could not
needed.
sleep. Yeah, I could
Yeah.
not sleep because every 30 minutes I could feel. So I was just lying down and like trying to meditate, and also move around if I had to in between. So like the entire night I was just like moving, trying to lie down, getting up, moving. Whenever I had a contraction, I had an urge to move also. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a sleepless night for me that night.
Hmm. And was it bearable? Were they mild? Were they getting intense? So how did they like progress?
The contractions were pretty manageable at home. Um, which is why I decided to sort of stay at home for as long as I could.
Yes.
So midnight till the next day noon,
Mm-hmm.
I was home for 12 hours.
Hmm.
And then I told Neha, who's my doula, that, hey, you know what, maybe I need to leave now in the next 1 or 2 hours. So she came over,
This was
and
next morning or in the
next
night?
morning, next
Next
morning.
morning.
So
Okay.
12 hours into my active, almost active, I don't know, like 12 hours into my
Yeah.
labor, where the
Hmm.
contractions were every 30 minutes.
Okay.
Uh, so Neha had come. I had called a friend of mine. So all of us were there. And we were trying to, they were trying to distract me. We were cracking jokes, and I was recording
Hmm.
videos, and I was
Hmm.
moving with my birth ball. So we were doing like all kinds of these things. And now I have those videos, and sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh my God, such fun. So we I think, so 12 midnight it started, and 1:30 p.m. the next
Hmm.
day is
Hmm.
when I left for Aastrika, knowing that it's about an hour and a half drive.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, now it feels like, I'm ready to go. And oh boy, the drive was, I think, the toughest part of the journey. Of the entire sort of birthing experience. I remember the drive was not easy. Also because, like, we have such bad infrastructure and like really bad roads, and
Yeah.
it was challenging because our contractions were coming closer,
Coming.
and
It was.
yeah, the ride was slightly tricky, but thankfully it was Christmas and a holiday, so there was no traffic. So I was just thanking my stars. I'm like, a very
Hmm.
wise child chosen the right day
Yes.
to
Yes. Yes.
time
That's
it with the
yeah.
traffic constraints.
That's how beautiful birth is, because it is spiritual. It is driven by God. So no matter how much we think something would go wrong, something would go wrong, it mostly figures out how things should go right. So a day like that would be chosen, and a time like that would be chosen. I've heard stories of people saying, "Well, I wanted this person there." So a particular day was chosen, okay, to ensure that this person is there, or a particular time was chosen. The person that they didn't want to be there was not there. So it's incredible how these things play out.
Yeah.
And so when you were going to the hospital, how far along, like how far apart the contractions were? Were they like 5 minutes apart, 4 minutes?
Yeah. It's about 5 to 10 minutes,
Hmm.
like almost 5 to 7 minutes, really.
Okay.
And by the time I reached, it was literally 3 to 4 minutes.
Ah.
Um, so when I was there at the reception, I my contractions were 3 to 4 minutes, and the midwife who saw me, uh, initially she thought she will sort of, before admitting me, she'll check,
Hmm.
if I should be admitted. But when she saw me,
Yeah.
she's like, "Listen, you're already in active labor.
Active
Just
labor.
just come."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was just I just went inside the birthing suite, and they knew in my birth plan that I wanted to have, like, see the nature visuals. And as soon as I saw a waterfall, like I entered, I saw a waterfall, and gush, my water broke.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
as soon as I
Wow.
entered the room. So I'm like, okay, cool. I think this is it. Like, this is the day.
Hmm. Wow. So how did you yourself manage the early labor? You were lying on bed, you were walking, what all did you do? If you could elaborate.
Yeah, so I was active in my third trimester, and I was pretty comfortable moving around. I did yoga till, like, that very day. So I was pretty
Hmm.
active. I was very comfortable. I was in my house. I was moving up and down the stairs, which was helping me actually manage my pain. Um, I played a lot of chants and a lot of the kind of music that I prepared my labor playlist, and I was playing a lot of that. And yeah, like it was my mom, my husband, my house help, they were all there. And all I remember is just like me with my birth ball and like just moving around the house, like up and down.
Hmm.
And sometimes I was just resting. I didn't really again sleep, but every time there was a contraction, I had a urge to kind of stand up and like move a little
Hmm.
and make
Hmm.
some
Hmm.
space. So I was moving all throughout, and uh, yeah, that's how I managed almost 12, 13 hours at home.
Yeah. And you were eating, you were
Yeah,
sipping on something. Yeah.
yeah, I
You were
was trying to
having.
keep myself hydrated. I was trying to sort of, my mom kept making getting me small snacks because I couldn't eat much. So she was
Hmm.
getting me some small plates, and yeah, and I was actually also recording videos for Samara because I wanted to sort of, just pause and record that. So I also have some pictures and videos I recorded to show her that, like, hey, I'm super excited, and I'm going to meet you very, very soon.
Yeah, that is very lovely to be able to think that and to plan that. It's beautiful to journal that for babies because they should also,
Yeah,
in a world that we are in, babies, girls, young girls are not seeing births the way they
yeah.
should be. So
Yeah, to be very
it's
honest to you, Divya, I did not plan this. Like, I just, like, in that moment, I'm like, you know what, I want to record something, and I just recorded it. And I did not plan. I did not even know that there will be pictures and videos of my birth. But I just told my doula, like, hey, feel free to, like, click, if you. So she was asking me in the first, like, should I click one picture? I was like, yeah, sure, feel free to, like, click and record and do whatever, like, as long as it's between you and I'm happy to do it. But when I saw those videos and pictures, oh my god, like, I realized that they mean so much. I'll try to
mm,
put it together into a video. We're trying to put together a movie of the bird, but like, that video of Samara coming out is my favorite video. Like, I watch it, like, 100 times
yeah,
sometimes. So both Kunal and I, we love to sort of, sometimes just sit and we are having like our own time and Samara is sleeping. We just like
mm,
open our birth album and like we just scroll through our pictures and videos and just like, relive that magical day.
yeah. And then when you were in active labor there, so in fact, while you were traveling to the hospital, were you breathing between the contractions? Were you
Yeah,
like slowing down when there was a bump or when there was a
yeah.
contraction? Were you guys slowing down?
Yeah. We took
Yeah.
it really slow. Kunal was driving, and my friend was with me too, a very close friend of mine. And I had my labor card playlist, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was about an hour and a half because we
Hmm.
were driving very, very slowly. And yeah, there were times that I felt like, oh my God, will the baby come out here? Like, I'm not sure. Uh,
Yeah,
but uh,
that is one of
but
the
yeah,
visuals we always think of. Okay, what if the baby
yeah.
comes on the way?
Yeah. So I did have that thought once. I mean, I'm like, this is getting intense. Like, what if she just comes here? But yeah, I think we were taking it very slow in the car.
Okay. And then you were breathing all through, and then when you went there, the midwife sensed you between contractions. She was like, "Okay, let's go. It's
Yeah,
time." Yeah.
yeah,
And then how was the active labor in the birth room?
yeah. So it was really short, like the time between. So I reached around 3 o'clock, I guess,
Hmm.
and Samara was born like at 5:15. So I had about 2 hours,
Oh,
15 minutes from the time I reached Aastrika till she came out, right? So it was literally super short. So as soon as I went in, the midwife checked me and she's like, you know what, you've done 70% of the work already. You're almost 6 to 8 centimeters dilated.
yes.
Uh, so I was really happy. I'm like, yay. You know what? I mean, because I wasn't sure if, sometimes you think whether it's going to be like late at night or whatever, but
Yeah.
something told me like
Hmm.
if I try, I had the urge to push. So the transition phase was right after my water
Kicking
broke, like,
in.
yeah, kicking in.
Oh,
I'm like, okay, I think if I push, it's going to come out. But at the same time, I wanted to also take it slow, like, so I
yes.
entered
That's
the,
wise.
yeah,
Hmm.
and like I said, that I never thought it'll be a water birth. Like, I was drawn to it, but I didn't know. So, which is why I never signed the consent form. So, I just told them, like, you know what? I feel like I should step into the pool. And they're like, but hey, you're not signing. I'm like, give me the documents, because
Yeah.
I had read through it, and I had obviously informed and discussed all of this with the doctor, but I hadn't really signed it. So I literally signed it before getting into the pool, and I'm like, I knew that, okay, this could be it. Like, I knew that she wanted to come out in water.
Oh, it's incredible how mothers just know what the babies want, how they want to go about it, and it just goes about fine. And which is why we say that mothers should be laboring as much as possible at home and only go to the birth center, the hospital, wherever they're going
Yeah,
when it's active labor, because then it becomes easier for everybody. Going in too early, especially in traditional hospitals, just makes it, because nobody wants to wait, and which
yeah,
is why a lot of births which can happen, many women can birth naturally, but it just goes topsy turvy because of the very same reason, because we went in early, nobody had the time, they had to watch the clock, and Yeah, a lot of other things also, which the podcast
Yeah.
anyway keeps talking about. But
I'm sure there are many variables to it, you know. For some people also, I think the pain threshold is low, so they would rather
mm,
be in a facility than sort of be at home.
mm,
I'm someone who I always believe also has a very low pain threshold. So when I reached, everyone asked me like, how did you manage for this long at home? You know, you must be having a very high. I'm like, no, like I do not have a very high threshold when it comes to pain. I'm very, very sensitive to it, but I feel like the work that I did to prepare myself was
yes.
not thinking about contractions as painful
Mm,
experience, but also thinking of it as the waves that come and that's taking you closer to your baby, right? Because your baby is moving out. So whatever audio podcast I had heard online, I was following a couple of doulas also. So the work that I did, I think that really helped me be conditioned condition my mind in a way that
yeah.
it was not
Perceive.
associating contractions with pain but associating it with something more positive, and
Mm.
trying to sort of stay more relaxed so that there's no adrenaline spike, and I was just trying to stay as calm as I could.
Yeah, that's exactly the work of childbirth classes. They are actually to train the mind because the body is going to do the work. The
Yeah,
mind will get in the way. So as soon
correct.
as you're scared, oh my God, oh, I need to fight this. But all we need to
Yeah,
do is just flow with it,
and
flow
let
with it,
go.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and let go and surrender. So beautiful. And then, okay, so when your water broke, did they check you? Did they put a pad on, or were you like, because you were in active labor, you just decided to get into the pool? How was it?
So yeah, so when the water broke, like I said, I just entered the room and the water broke, and they were still preparing the birth pool and like the right temperature. So there was like about half an hour it took. In that half an hour, I kept moving around, and just half an hour later, I think I entered the birth pool. So I was in the pool
Mm.
for about an hour or so before Samara came in.
Mm.
Yeah, I think. I could feel the transition phase, and I entered the birth pool, and uh, there was a lot of the kind of music I wanted was playing, which I feel like, I mean, it's such an underrated thing, like these small things, but they make such a huge difference because
Yeah.
there was some chatter, right, which is always happening between the midwife nurse, they're talking like, what
Mm,
should we do?
mm.
If the music really made sure that I was like completely like
Yeah,
tuned into
vibing.
myself and like
Yeah.
not really bothering about like what's happening there, because I was like, I knew, I've told them everything, they know what I want. I was very secure that my choices are being sort of taken care of. They have assured me that. I knew that my doula and my husband are sort of managing this, so I don't really need to. So I think that's the important part of the prep, that you just delegate so that you don't really need to sort of do the thinking. And
Yeah.
all I tried to do was just tell my mind to like not interfere. And what also helped is the meditation technique that I follow is Vipassana,
Mm,
and you end
mm,
up learning how to observe your sensations. And you
mm.
learn in the Vipassana meditation teaches you to sort of not react to the sensations. So if it's a positive or nice, pleasant sensation, or if it's an unpleasant sensation, so you sit with it, you observe it, and you let it pass. So that meditation was a great tool, uh, which I had, which helped me with my labor. So both yoga and meditation, which I think we've been doing like for years, I think
Yeah.
uh, somewhere helped me at that point in time. I'm like, I did not know the significance of all the yoga and meditation that I've practiced. Like, I could see the application and I could see it work right there.
Yeah, lovely. And how did the contractions feel during transition? How were they? Would you be able to describe that?
Honestly, like it's a little bit of a blur because it's already been like 6.5 months now. But I feel the transition phase, like I just knew like if I push, she's gonna just come out.
Okay, you
So I
could
just
feel
looked
her
at.
right down there. You could
Yeah,
feel her
yeah,
down there. Okay.
yeah. So I just looked at Neha. I'm like, listen, she wants to come out, And she's like, Neha told me, like, do you want to get into the pool? I'm like, yes, let's do this. And as soon as I entered the pool, like, oh my God, like, I just felt so light. I felt the, and you know what? I always thought it's going to be a lot of pushing and screaming and all of that. There's none of it. I did not scream once or yell once or cry once, which I was expecting, like a lot of tears, and Kunal was ready with tissues. So,
That's
uh,
sweet.
but now that I look back, I was actually smiling in the videos because the music was just keeping me happy. And
Yeah.
Neha tells me, like, you were in a trance state, and it
Yes, women
was,
go in trance.
yeah, yeah. And I remember my midwife telling me, like, just blow the baby out, just blow. And that helped so much, like just knowing that I
Mm.
don't have to push or I don't have to like
Mm.
do that. So I was just like doing this breathing, continuously focused on my breathing, using my breath as a tool
Yeah.
to manage the waves of contraction. So I was actually on my knees in the pool. uh, that was the position I chose to birth, and I was just like breathing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, from the transition phase, like I entered the pool, and it just was. I'm like, this is the best decision ever. Like, I don't know if the baby's going to come out here or not. Just but being in the pool was
Yeah.
just feeling so, like, it was so relaxing because your body is just going through so much, and after 12, 13, 14 hours of labor, it was really, really nice to be in the pool.
Yes, yes. That's why pools, so water really helps, the buoyancy really helps the mother's body feel afloat, and it doesn't feel as if the pain also, I mean, the intensity also reduces when you are in
Hmm.
the water, and it kind of
Hmm.
helps. Some mothers don't like it, some mothers want to be out, but mostly mothers just love to, during transition, to be
Yeah.
there
I think
because,
it's also about your relationship with water, no? Because
yeah.
for some people it's really like safe and comforting, but some might not really associate water with that comfort. So it might sort of worry them, or like they might be
Yeah.
uncomfortable. So I think it's,
Right.
I knew when I was making my birth plan, I knew that uh, I would use water as a pain relief measure
Okay.
because I had a very nice and positive relationship with water. So, which is why I put it in my birth plan that I don't know about birthing in water, but at least I would like to enter the pool and see how it goes.
Yeah. And then when the baby was transitioning, the baby's head was seen. Did it take time when the head was coming, or did the head just show up and the baby was out? How was it?
Yeah, it did not take time. So, like I said, I was in the pool for about an hour, and my midwife told me that, like, do you want to touch your baby's head because it's almost there. And I tried to touch, and I was, oh my God, there's so much hair. Like, somehow I was born with like a lot of hair. So
Mm,
I'm like, all I could feel
wow.
was hair. And I think she, it was like she just slid it, like, out.
Yeah.
it
Mm,
wasn't it didn't take much time from there. I think
much.
it was about
Yeah.
15 minutes,
Mm,
from the time I
mm.
sort of could feel her head to the time she came out. And oh my God, like, yeah, after 15 minutes, I mean, all of that was so worth it when you see her and the baby is like on you. It was just so amazing.
Wow. And your husband was there all along in
Yes,
the room, and he was,
yes.
yeah, wow. So you had some time as a family together with the baby.
Oh, yes. So, again, one of the things in the birth plan was we wanted like our golden hour to just be us. So, thanks to the team, I still did tell Janvi and the Aastrika team that, I had the most beautiful golden hour ever.
Wow.
There was total privacy. They were just the three of us for almost an hour, and the baby was doing her breast crawl, and all of that
Wow.
just happened. It was amazing, and I think I the time as a concept didn't exist for that 1 hour that we had. Like it, I just remember those moments as like, this it was just beautiful. I don't think I can describe it, but the right after birth, the three of us in the room, bonding was the best thing ever.
Amazing. And then how was your husband's reaction, and what does he think of it now when he tells you about how he observed the birth, and what were his thoughts then?
Uh, so I always have a good laugh because when I see the birth video, like sometimes Kunal's also there in it, and like he's so like he just froze like so so one of my favorite things to watch is Kunal's reaction, while the birth is happening. It is just very funny because I'm like, oh my God, like so he was crying, sobbing, all of that. Like again I laugh. I'm like, listen, I didn't cry, you did during my labor and the birth, and he got so emotional and like he was. There was a point when he got emotional while holding my hand, and I was in a zone where I'm like, Kunal, like, what? Neha, please come in and hold my hands because let Kunal sort of have his moment there. So yeah, I think he tells me this, like what he saw was like a miracle. He could not believe it, like, and he's never obviously seen a birth before, so it was for him like a beautiful, beautiful experience. And yeah, I mean, it's like he's like, I didn't know like women have this superpower,
Yes,
like
yes.
he was like, no one tells you about all these things, right? Like growing up, like we take these things for granted, but this is
Yeah,
huge. Being able to, and no matter how you do it, you have a natural birth or you have a medicated one or you have a C-section, does not matter. What matters is that, you've created a human, and that in itself is that sight to just see that the human really coming out is not, is just, I don't know. I don't think he also has words to describe what it feels like when he saw Samara for the first time and the birth.
yeah. It's ironical how we associate sacrifice so much with women, even in birth. And it is
Hmm.
it is a lot of hard work. It is everything. But
Hmm.
when you go back and see the pictures, you see you were in trance, you see you were smiling, you were having your time, you were feeling all of it, but you were still, women smile during labor. They have that time and that ecstasy is there. And the way
Yeah.
births are happening today, women are robbed of that feeling of, I definitely think it is a feeling of achievement. And however, how many women can have it. And whenever there is an emergency, yes, there is a boon out there. There is cesarean, there is surgical birth, there are medications, and they're there for emergencies. And
Yeah.
uh, many women should not be robbed of this opportunity to at least have labor today, because in a lot of facilities women are not even allowed to go into labor, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
medicated right from the beginning. So these beautiful experiences where the family comes together, it's now a part of the family. That experience is part of the family, and it goes down the generations. Your daughter will see all these things, and she's not going to be scared. Nobody can
Yeah.
scare her. It's so beautiful. And
I know. And the reason I think that where you and I are talking, right? And the reason in the fog of the first week after birth, I decided to write my story down before I forget it. Uh, was that when I was pregnant and I was like going around asking people, how was your birth? How was it? How is it? And I was online. I I didn't hear one positive birth story in my immediate circles or friends or family. Like all the stories that came to me or reached me were stories of trauma and pain and hospitals running out of oxygen cylinder. It's too late to give epidural. It's you know with all due respect, like these scenarios happen, right? And like not every birth is going to be you know like 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 this a happy
yeah,
story. Maybe some births are traumatic, some births are difficult, depends on how that particular situation is. But then there are also happy stories of birth, and I felt that I need to share this. I need to share what happened because otherwise I think someone like me would still be searching for a happy, positive birth story and not find one online, right? So, which
yeah,
is why I decided to make something as personal as my birth story public. On Mother's Day, I just put it out there. I'm like, listen, like, this is the story of how I became a mother. And I really think that the mamas to be need to sort of know that, you can also have a birth where, it's natural. You don't really need medication. If you need, that's also something that you can ask for, as long as your choices are respected. So
Yeah.
you can elect for a C-section, as long as it's your choice to,
Yeah.
and you
You
can
have
sort of also,
options.
and you can also stand up saying that, hey, this is not what I want to try, I want to do this, or try
Hmm.
this position, etc. So I felt it was, we as women, I think it's important for us to talk about this outside of the also mother support groups, because a lot of times these conversations just stay confined to our mommy networks or mommy support
Hmm.
groups. But someone who's not a mother yet, like, how does she find out about this unless we talk about it openly?
Yeah. 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 As open as it is in the movie, so why not like make it out, bring it out to the masses, women in
Yeah,
every stage, as it
yeah.
is a normal, natural process. And yeah, that's beautiful. And then how did the placenta, how was the placenta born?
I honestly don't remember much, but I just remember that I came out of the pool and I was lying down, and like I had another this urge where I pushed. It was Kunal was doing his skin to skin with Samara while they were examining me, and then I had just come out. I stepped out of the pool and I was just lying down, and that's when I had that urge to push, and the
Hmm.
placenta came out. But I actually don't remember much because I think I was in that high of oxytocin, and post that, like, there was about 15-20 minutes, and I don't think I remember much what just happened. I just was just
Oh,
high, and again, like, there's a video of me saying that, like, I feel like I'm on the top of the world. This is pure magic, and I remember Kunal, like, in the background doing skin to skin with Samara. So yeah, that's how the placenta came out.
okay. And it came out like all beautiful. You guys saw it. You guys,
Again, I saw it, but like I said, like that 15 minutes, I'm just like, I just
yeah,
don't
blur.
remember much about postparts. I also had a vaginal tear,
Hmm.
which is what they were examining, and all of that was happening. But they said that it's not much, so you guys take your time, and after, we'll come back and check, like, on you after an hour.
Yeah,
So I remember when I came out, the midwife said that there is a tear, but it might or might not need sutures. We don't know. We'll check, but we'll take an hour's time and come back.
yeah. And was it sutured later then?
Yes, it was, to
It's
be on the
beautiful.
safer side. So
Yeah.
the doctor, actually, it was Christmas, so doctor arrived just in time. Uh, just 5 minutes, I think, before Samara came out. So she was in time for the sutures, and we had I think a few sutures.
Okay. And then you guys were there together in the birth center. You guys were there for, so the baby was with you throughout, was not taken anywhere. And then when did you guys come
Yeah.
back home?
Uh, for the first hour, the baby was with us, and I think after that, there were some checks and all that, for which I had asked them to keep the baby in my room a little bit away, maybe,
Closer.
if the, yeah,
Hmm.
closer somewhere. But I think there were a couple of times uh, we had to also take Samara out for something, some other checks, but it was all like one of us was there with her, and she was like either with me or with Kunal all the time. So there was no stress on me or the baby, because it's a small center, so it was also a very cozy center sort of to move around. And yeah, we stayed there for about 3 days, and Kunal and I joke about it because we were like, the birth happened like within 2 hours of us being in that room, right? So for the next 3 days, it was like a one-on-one on how to manage a baby. So the
Hmm.
nurses and the midwives were just teaching us everything, and we were trying to sort of ask all the questions. And so the 3 days were, we had a very good time, actually, because they were all taking care of Samara. She was the only baby in the midwifery center who was there that time, and she got all the attention. And we were all like, Kunal and I were literally chilling
Wow.
and
Yeah.
asking like all the questions, like, what should we do now, and like, how do you do this, how do you do that. So it was just a
Hmm.
101 on childcare, newborn care for us at Aastrika.
That's such a lovely start because that's the hardest part to take
Yeah,
care of a newborn. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. And how did the breastfeeding began?
uh so it, touch wood, it just felt so natural. Like we let her do the breast crawl. She tried to find her way, literally, till here, and she needed a little bit of help, but she just latched instantly.
Yeah.
It was, I thought, I don't know, like it just like, and since then, like touch wood, I never had an issue with her latch or anything. It just felt so natural because I think letting her do that breast crawl was also important. Uh, from a whenever I read anything about it, like they highly recommended it. So we also gave her that time instead of directly sort of making her latch like that. So that's what like 6.5 months later, even now, like I've never had any issues, and I am very, very grateful. I think Samara sort of knew this already. Like she
Yeah.
knew. I don't know how. Like babies know
They know.
what they know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think since the time I conceived or even decided to conceive, like till now, I'm just in awe of like the spiritual side of it. That this girl, which who I call an old soul, has written her entire story. I have no role to play in this. I have no role to
Amazing.
play in how the birth happened. I think all I did was surrender and let Samara take a call on how she wants to come and what she wants to do. And I really think that's how it has been. Like she's really writing her own story.
Yeah. Yeah. And it brings us back to how we were always, as people in living in communities, connected to God, connected to spirits, and always took it as a spiritual process and not not really a process that needs to be put in an emergency box all the time.
Yeah,
Considering, yeah, there can be emergencies, but not all the
yeah,
time. Not looking,
yeah,
not viewing it as an emergency, birth in itself as a risky affair, more as a spiritual affair, more knowing that there's magic in it. Yes, there is magic
yeah,
that exists,
yeah, yeah,
and how incredible it is that babies that are born in a positive environment, um, in um, in an environment where the birth was undisturbed, where it was unmedicated, where there was love, where there was the baby, when the baby is surrounded by that kind of an environment, the babies do so much better. And that sometimes is not taken care of in when we just look at science and detach science from the belief system and the emotions. We don't see that the environment that the baby is being born into is so crucial also. When there
yeah,
is love, babies just do what the natural instincts uh, you know make them do. So breastfeeding is so interrelated or integrated with a good birth. Like a good birth, a good breastfeeding experience is mostly goes hand in hand, except
yeah,
when there are like some other issues. Yeah.
yeah. And I also think that breastfeeding is no walk in the park at the same time, right? Like
Yes.
it's hard. It's
It is.
the first 1 month. Although like we had no problems with the latch and like touch with my supply was okay and everything was like fine. But just the exhaustion, right? Like of doing it and like in the growth spurts. And I, for the first one, I'm like, wow, like how do women do this? This is so hard. This is really hard. And sometimes I feel like when I said it's hard, like I was like, people are like, no, but it should not be. I'm like, it's okay to acknowledge that it's hard. At the same time, it's also okay to sort of acknowledge the joy in it. It's it's important, like that we talk about like how difficult breastfeeding also is for a woman. It's taking up so much resources and energy from your body. So it takes your body some getting used to for the first few weeks or sometimes first few months.
Yeah.
But what really kept me going was just having that support system, like my husband and my mother, and the right people I was talking to, the care team. I really think that that also makes a huge difference in the mother being in the right state of mind to be able to
Yeah.
tackle the issues that are there, because issues are going to be there. Issues will show up in so many forms and shapes.
Absolutely.
But I
Yeah.
think if you just have that support system, and you spoke about it, like how in the ancient times we had that network and support system in our own village, and the wisdom to how to tackle these issues. Right now, I think a lot of us in the nuclear family setup also get very anxious because we don't know what to do. And obviously, like how will we, right? We don't need to know all of this. We learn on all of this. But
Yes,
as long
true.
as there's a care team that's guiding us and supporting us, I think the issues are also manageable. And like babies are resilient, and I know that they
Yeah.
can uh, they can manage it, and I think so can mothers, as long as there's that care and love
Yeah.
that we give the new moms and newborns.
Yeah. Like they say all the time these days, hold the mother and not the baby. Of course, you hold the
Yeah,
baby, but hold the mother now
yeah,
as the baby is
yeah,
born. Because breastfeeding is fine, but the entire emotional change for a mother, the
yeah,
new situations, the feeling of surrendering to motherhood,
yeah,
just being in the flow, being sleepless, tackling all of that is so
yeah,
difficult. And we are also
yeah,
not in nature. One of the things that I personally also feel, that being in nature, babies have natural they're naturally stimulated, nicely
yeah,
stimulated. They have the sun, comes at the right time, and the sun sets
yeah,
at its own time. There is rhythm, there is music, there are so many things we're not a part of, and which also I think complicates human postpartum.
yeah.
And animals just do it. Animals just do it. I'm always thinking, animals, how do you do it? How do you
Yeah,
just
so I think the two things that you said, both of them makes a lot of sense, right? Like, firstly, postpartum is hard. I mean, I realized that the first 12 weeks after Samara was born was not easy. I completely lost my identity or any sense of identity that I had. I lost track of time. When someone says like a day or a night, I'm like, it's all the same. I'm feeding every 2 hours. It's all a blur. So the first 12 weeks are extremely hard, and I really feel that there is a lack of postpartum care for mothers. Not just, I mean, at home we still figure it out, right? We now in today's setups with millennial moms, you have a support system of, if not your family, you hire a support system, you
yeah,
hire a job or a nanny or
right.
whatever. But
Hmm.
if I look at like the healthcare out there, there's no incentive to care for a postpartum mom, you know. So
Yes.
there are packages for pregnancy and like birth and all of that. And sometimes I was wondering, right, like if I have an issue, I have to go to a physio or I have to go to a gynac or sometimes I have to go to a nutritionist. Like, why isn't someone really bringing all of this together for me? And I was talking to someone the other day about it, and I was telling her that someone like you should be doing this because. Um, Postpartum moms, they do not have the time and energy to be able to sort of look after themselves. So even if they know that something is wrong, if there's a diastasis recti or if there is a incontinence issue, if there's a lower back pain, that's like the seventh, eighth, ninth, or tenth thing on their priority list right now. And they will not really go out and seek help as
Yeah.
long as it's really like, difficult and they're not really
Messing
able to sort
messing
of.
it up for them. Yeah.
Yeah, so as long as, so which is what I think needs to also change. So I'm glad that we have centers like Aastrika now, where birthing is a more joyful experience for mothers. But I think there's still a lot more work that needs to be done, like postpartum. Like we expect moms to bounce back at work in 6 months,
Yeah.
but
That's terrible.
six
Six
six months,
months.
it took me 6 months to just get a hang of the schedule with Samara, with a lot of help and support system that perhaps I'm very privileged and grateful to have. But at the same time, I don't feel myself even now when it comes to my energy levels, when it comes to my stamina, my workouts. There's so much more work I need to put into my own health. And I wish there was an easier way to do this, like an easier way to sort of manage my own health and support system. And I was ranting about it, and someone told me this, like, hey, you know what? When you're pregnant, like the entire focus is on the pregnant woman because she's going to bring the baby out. So people spend money left, right, center to look after her. But once the baby is out, people
Yeah.
spend all their money on the baby. You
Yeah.
know, so it's the mom. If she wants to do something, she'll have to drive that. She will most likely not have the energy to drive it
Yeah.
herself. So
Yeah.
again, something that for me, like I'm glad to have a partner like Kunal because he's the one who's always pushing me to sort of take care of myself and like do my yoga, do my physio sessions, all of that, right? He helped me book a session with a therapist, just to track my mental health. Um, I do not have postpartum depression, but I had 1 month of really difficult time dealing with
Yeah.
baby blues, and
Yeah.
I wanted to be tracking my mental health. And all of these things are so important. And I really think when you really say hold the mother, I just don't see that in actions. I don't see a
Yeah.
reflection of that in like our society or the healthcare system or, in general, like around us.
Yeah, that brings me again to the very concept that was always there of wise women in the community. Those who would help you with birth, the midwives, the wise women, they would help you with birth, they would help you postpartum in all respects. They just had incredible knowledge of herbs,
Yeah,
of various methods of healings, what to eat,
yeah,
what not to eat, what
yeah,
herbs to take, how to handle the baby. They would come in after every second day, third day, fifth day, up until like 2 weeks or sometimes months. They would keep visiting. There would be community circle for women, um, you know, um, new mothers, and it is really lacking. And I see that. And for me too, yes, sometimes I'm like, who do I call? I have like, thankfully, I do have friends. And thankfully, around the same age as my daughter is, but you do need your tribe to
yeah.
just let it out without sometimes not even needing solutions, just needing, okay, this is fine. Okay, now
Mm,
what? Now what's next? Yeah, it will come
yeah,
around. I think with time, more and more people just learning this, and with the spirit
yeah,
of helping each other, with the spirit of community, women just coming up for each other in this. Yeah,
yeah,
it will come around. And thank you so
yeah.
much for
I'm
bringing
sure.
this up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. In fact, like I think because I also moved to this locality just about a year ago when I was pregnant, right? So it was recently I started this group called Parents of Defense Colonies where I live,
Oh,
and we are about 20 of us already. And I felt like it was important to have that, right? Because in
yes.
again a modern urban setting, we don't know who our neighbor is, and I would like Samara to sort of have friends her of her age and not be lonely in the urban setting. So I also think that again the millennial women who are sort of also changing the way birthing is happening, or they are demanding better care. I think I'm very sure like we'll also sort of demand and create and find ways to sort of have our own village and build it around
Yes.
us.
Yes, yes, it's incredible. You're leading the way with these little things that you've picked up, with that community that you're building in your own locality. Your local communities are also so crucial. It doesn't have to go
Yeah,
global. It can be
yeah,
local. It can be very true
yeah,
to the people who are in yours because they speak a different language, they live a different way, they eat a
yeah,
different way. So it makes so much sense to
yeah,
have it local, to have it central, and to have it available to each other.
yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Supriya, for this incredible story. I had a great time recording with you.
Thank you so much for having me here, Divya, and looking forward to sort of chatting more. We had so much to talk about, but we'll continue this conversation.
What comes out from Supriya's story is when you have a strong faith in the fact that knowledge is important, in the fact that a doula and a support system will help you have the kind of birth you imagine, it really, really works in your favor. And one of the major things in India today that we lack is the presence of centers to be able to support the kind of birth that is important. A small announcement before we move forward. Registrations for the August childbirth classes are open. You can go to www.birthagni.com/contact us to be able to register yourself in any of the programs you would like to. And there is a discovery call I do with all my mothers before they enroll and register and go forward, explaining all the procedures and the way I serve you by continuous WhatsApp, online, on-call support throughout your pregnancy as long as you hire me as your birth coach. So go ahead and check that out. And thank you so much for listening.
There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the bar. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.